Hey, we love that umbrella guy. All right. Thank you.
I'm calling from Los Angeles, and I'm having a little problem under the name ThATuMBRELLAgUY. I sent him my phone number at least 20 times in the chat and told him to call me. He ignored me. I'm a man. I filed the report. If you guys could take a look at it and give me a call back, I would love to hear what you guys can do to help us. We really need to kind of stop this guy at least until Monday. I told him to call me. I'm a man.
You know what? I talk to your mayor.
Police or zombie problems? Your tortoise won't stop breakdancing?
Try blue tape.
The miracle of our age. Yay!
Army of one. Getting masked up and rolling over snitches. Sitting them like the cruise line, baby, to throw out the E-stitches. A wrecking ball to all their scams, the grifts they sold as free. The lawyers, the lies, the 50s is paid, blocking out the only me. How many claims are left in ruins? Oh, let us count the ways. A memorial, 20K on fencing, a fortune turned into 18K. What's the sound of two brain cells fighting for last place? If you guess the ecosystem, that's right. You got lies about money, a fortune squandered, thousands flagrantly misused. And unlike sickness, there's sadly no cure for stupid. This isn't just a mic drop, it's yet another nuke, asking what they're gonna do when their money turns to poof. The greatest truth out there, they know the truth in what I wrote. But to quote you ecosystem pals, they've already tossed you off the boat. I hope you can float, lady, because they've abandoned you. Abandoned. That's right.
Dun, 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 dun. Hey, what's up, folks? How's it going today? Man, I like that song.
I do too. You don't play it very often.
I know, man. I like that. I like that floating feeling, you know, that just rolling through the tide because the cruise ship has left you behind. Poor Lynette. Man. Let's take a moment of silence for $1,000.
Yes, moment of silence.
All right, too long.
I'm muting because I've got a very loud tea kettle perking in the background. It's very loud. I don't know if you can hear that or not. But
no, I don't. I haven't heard it
yet.
Okay,
good. It's very loud.
That's funny. No, I'm looking through this wonderful new lawsuit and making sure everything's all redacted out of here. You know, man, I forgot to freaking take out his stupid banner. you know, Beauchamp's banner.
Oh yeah, with the eagle and the tree.
Yeah, I gotta freaking take his office number out of that.
What a weirdo.
God, I mean, really, you know, it reminds me of it's like he was like, man, there's this brand new thing called MySpace. Oh, it's amazing though. God, we've also, folks, so we've been all looking over everything Bruce related for the last day. Of course, we're going to do that. And my God, I had forgotten some of this stuff. There's so much of it.
Totally. Me too. I have forgotten a lot of the egregious things that he has done. And I'm being reminded hourly as I look through all of our evidence that we have.
Yeah, I had forgotten just some of the basic email. Like, I'd forgotten that he was so desperate to get somebody to talk about stuff that he was mailing at one time just filings. It was just straight up mailing filings out to people as quote unquote journalists. And it's weird
Really
because
funny. He claims to be a private individual. It's strange when a private individual keeps begging, in his own words, begging to be put on shows to talk about this issue.
it's also, finding everything, including his greatest win, 5-month delay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's all so crazy. This is it's like a testament to lunacy sometimes, and now he decided of all things, he was like, I want to fight with that very, very competent lawyer guy,
Yeah, it's weird. That real successful guy, the successful guy that like has a thriving business and it is like young and wealthy. Yeah, sure,
The
that's a
one that
great
will,
idea.
the
It's a
one
great
that
idea.
will definitely countersue the hell out of him,
Mm-hmm. Somebody who knows what they're doing. So it's strange that that's who he decided to go for, but whatever. It's going to
I'm
be
proud of him.
interesting. It's going to be interesting, and we're going to have a lot more on that lawsuit. We're definitely going to be following that. The next thing that we're going to do when we go back to covering Manskin v. Foreman is to look at Larry's actual words. We're going to look in context at the videos and really analyze them from a non-crazy perspective.
I can't believe how many crazy letters have been written,
Oh, and by the way, we've decided to call it the excrement suit.
Excrementy.
The excrementy suit. Or the BM suit for
I like
short.
it for BM. Yeah.
The
It
BM
works,
suit.
it works for Brucey Bruce. And again, he has no excuse after that wonderful clip where he compares himself to the poopus.
True.
Oh my God. I need to bring that up again for a minute. I need that in my life to kick this stream off.
Yeah, it's so nuts. It's so nuts. And I think any judge looking at it and reading that is going to be like, what?
Yep. Here we go. If you missed this for some reason yesterday, by the way, you definitely need to go back and to tune in to Megan's stream. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. But
It was.
God, there was so much goodness in this. But
well, the best part was when Tug started reading quickly so he could get to this paragraph.
Yeah.
You've never heard Tug read so quickly before in all your life. He was like, Foreman apparently does not care, as he states in his April video. You, Maskin, disgust me, sir. By this time, Foreman had taken to calling Bruce Maskin Deuce.
You're like, holy shit. Who's this speed reader we've hired?
For a minute, I thought I was on higher speed. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, we're live. That can't happen.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, when I saw this, I was like, I've got to see that. Foreman apparently does not care about the things he's stating. In April, he said, you, Manskin, disgust me, sir. Now, by this time, Foreman had taken to calling Bruce Manskin Deuce in his videos, parroting the nickname that others had contrived for YouTube content. Deuce, according to the Urban Dictionary, meant the result of a complete bowel movement.
Good Lord.
You know what, Bruce? I called you Deuce because I meant you came in second place.
Leave it to him to choose the worst definition that he can find to describe himself.
Oh my God!
Is it low self-esteem? What is it?
I don't know. I mean, maybe that weird crucifixion video went to his head or something. I'm not sure.
Maybe he has a humiliation fetish. I mean, we have talked about that before because it seems like he does. It seems like he really likes to be humiliated in public.
That stuff's just amazing. I was like, wait a minute. After calling manskin a term for excrement, forming then a term for excrement. That is amazing.
Oh, Lord.
He should market merchandise. He should. He should be like more than a term for excrement.
And how is it that his initials are BM? I mean, come on. The simulation does not disappoint. Just saying.
It's so good. I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. How is this real? How is this real?
How
and we
is
follow
it?
up. We follow up yesterday with even more stunning. Let's see. I will put it up here while we're talking. In fact, this it makes sense why this happened too. We are talking about Dan Owens. Dan Owens himself. Now, if you're wondering why the heck would Dan Owens end up in a lawsuit, well, that's pretty interesting. If you didn't see the FOIA requested information, let's see.
Which I still haven't been all the way through, by the way. I got to go back to that because there's so much in there.
Well, we've been hit hard in the last few days,
I know.
or a week. God, it's hard to believe that's only been a week, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it feels like a month ago.
It does.
But
It does. And this lawsuit, by the way, is fire. This is probably the lawsuit I am the most interested in this entire thing, besides ours against Lips. But this one, it's deserved, and it's a long time coming, and they've got him dead to rights.
Oh yeah. Here we have Dan Owens mailing to Brett. How do you pronounce his name again?
Brett, which one? Beecham?
Beecham. I'm gonna call him Beauchamp. So I'll ask every time what his name is because my mind. I don't have enough room to remember his name. Sorry.
But Beauchamp is funny too.
Beauchamp. It sounds better. It sounds cooler, to be honest. So this is this is the banner I was talking about, by the way. Look.
With the eagle in the tree.
Yeah, he's like, look at me.
Look at me. I'm the American symbol.
I am protecting your freedoms. Rah! You can imagine him hanging out in trees dressed like an eagle. When he pulls people over, he does the eagle cry. Rah!
It's like he's got one of those full body suits that they used to use in those car commercials around the 4th of July. The guy in the eagle suit is like, come on down to Solozzi Edelson Ford.
Man, by the way, I found so I'd forgotten. We're talking about the Bruce in court thing too. I had forgotten about just the flagrant misrepresentation. Where remember when he was like, "Defendant's counsel, they won't meet with me at all," and then you find out that they had like an hour-long phone conversation. I've forgotten all about that. I found all the clips for that too while I was going through stuff. I mean, there are piles and piles of just. I realize some of that's not helpful for a lawsuit, but it's still interesting. You know what? I'm going to bring up everything and its mother, and we'll see what's useful.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it though. But yeah, look at that banner. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Do you not feel protected?
Oh, yes. Although the chat has pointed out it looks more like a buzzard.
I could see
it kind
that.
of does. It kind of does, except for the white head.
Yeah. Well, there are police and then there are road pirates. And well, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to say that this guy, well, if you read this, I feel more like road pirates, you know?
Uh-huh.
Oh, so here we have Dan Owens, the guy who should be wanting to hold up any protective order, you know, because, well, they're legal anywhere. See, there's been some confusion about all of this stuff, where protective orders are actually valid. You know, the ecosystem has been telling their listeners for a while that, well, we don't know how that happens, how an Ohio protective order was enforced in Florida. Well, yeah, we really do. First of all, they explained it, but they shouldn't have to explain it to you. You should understand crossing state lines doesn't invalidate a protective order. You know, when I go
Nope.
on vacation
It's
or visit,
supposed to
like,
get full faith and credit in every state.
well, visiting like an ailing relative or something shouldn't allow somebody to stalk me. You know, oh, you left Ohio. Sorry about your luck.
Yeah.
It's the dumbest idea ever, you know. It's the dumbest idea ever. What is that? Oh my goodness. I forgot about
What?
that. I forgot about the see you next Tuesday in in the depot. You know, we had that depot. It was
There was
you
a
know,
see
talking
you
about
next Tuesday in
two
the
L's
depot?
in a pod. You know, I call them two L's in a pod because they lie about everything. This was the
What are you reading from?
this is one of the depots from this case.
Which
Check this out. Look, I clipped it and put it in give me a second.
I am completely forgetting
it out.
all about this.
Oh my God.
This is the great thing about ADD is that I have such a terrible memory. Oh yeah. Whose deposition is this? Oh, this is Shara's. We still haven't finished this deposition.
How will we ever? You know, let's plan on
know.
it. That way something crazier will happen.
That's true.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. But I loved it. It was like talking about them, you know, and I was talking about I had a grant with the Home Depot person, a woman named Samantha. We were getting that set up. And what happened? Well, she, meaning Preston, well, she called me to see you next Tuesday.
Oh, I can't wait for the next deposition.
Oh my God, this
depot. Please show up, Lynette. Please show up for your next deposition. I really want to see another one.
Lynette, too. I realize that there are people out there that'll be like, you don't have to show up. Yes, you do. You know, I mean, you can physically not show up, but at the same time, if you don't show up, that could cause you a real big problem. And you know, I normally wouldn't say show up, but you were very entertaining in the last round. So I really want another round of depot, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I definitely need more of this.
You are not a nice person.
I need that in my life.
Oh my God. That is one of my favorite depots I've ever watched. It's one of the reasons I really gravitated to this. Between that and the Ohio hearing, which we're going to talk about more of the Ohio stuff, you know, this actually has the protective order attached. It's part of the filing. So we'll actually look at the original documentation. It's funny. You talk about not trying to air this, by the way, until it ends up because of this, really, because of the way that Dan Owens treated it. We didn't have any copy of it except what the ecosystem dumped out. And we are talking about a document filed in November of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's wild when you think about it. You know, they always claim Hales does everything for the moolah. You know, he does everything for the content. And yet, we didn't end up with that. Isn't that interesting? They're the ones who dumped it in public. So let's check this letter out, though. So this goes along with, I mean, you look at the dates on things. Actually, the order, Now that's interesting. I didn't process this.
What?
So the date. Okay, I'm going to pull up the protective order date. When's the protective order? Just bouncing it out of your brain. When did it
Just
go into effect?
I think it became permanent in October of 2023.
The order filed in on November 1st, 2023, right?
Okay.
All right. I was just noticing the date on this this emailing for October 30th, 2023.
Right.
That they're talking about it before it even files in.
Well, they must have known about it through Jeremy because he probably asked them to uphold it because he had the temporary one in October. He got a temporary one granted to him in the beginning of October, I do believe.
Yeah. So, I mean, they had decided from go.
Yeah.
That they were going to make sure they wouldn't do anything about it. That's wild.
Right. And that they were digging around looking for if he committed perjury, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, I've never heard of one state not only not trying to honor another state's protective order, but going out of their way. You have this small
reinvestigating it. Like what? That's not you're not over a judge, Dan Owen. A judge made this call. You don't get to investigate what a judge in another state did and then overrule that judge. Who do you think you are? You're just a lowly prosecutor. You're a nobody. Dan Owen has a real big head. He thinks he's somebody very important. And he thinks he's higher than an Ohio judge. Incredible.
That's how prosecutors, though, they act. Oh, by the way, this is just random here, but I'm going to add this in. So, you know the crazy I told you about the prosecutor here, running and gunning?
Yeah. I remember
apparently,
that funny.
Apparently that other jurisdiction isn't wanting to give him a free ride. They're not going to give him a slap on the wrist. Yeah, they want to take him to town. I really have a lot of problems not covering that, but I know. Like that guy will retaliate like a mofo.
Well, hopefully they get rid of him so he won't be able to retaliate.
No, but he has a lot of pals in the whole setup around here. You know how that goes. So it's just like the reason I mention that is because Dan Owens reminds me of that period. So here we have an email go from Dan Owens to Brett Beauchamp. Rah, mighty eagle. Rah. That's so funny. On the day before Halloween.
What is it on oh God, what's that show? The karate show, Cobra Kai. They're now eagles or something like because he got Cobra Kai taken away from him, and the new one is this either the screaming eagles or the screeching eagles or something like that.
I wonder if they all dress up like ghosts.
Eagle Fang.
I wonder if they all. Can you imagine like Dan and Brett Beauchamp? I bet they do. I bet they all dress up, quote unquote, like ghosts there. You know what I mean? Pointy-hatted ghosts.
Oh boy! Yikes!
It's the day before Halloween there.
It does seem like one of those counties, doesn't it?
Well, when you think about it too, we don't think about George and Jeremy as an interracial couple. Really, they don't play it up. You know what I mean? They don't talk about that. They're who they are. And yet, when you look at them, they're not just outsiders. They're Northerners that are in a small Southern community. But outside of that, there's other marks against them too. And while
I never thought about that because I just don't think in those terms. But you're right.
Oh, dude, you're right. Man. Growing up in freaking small towns, woo, baby. They don't like any difference.
That's gross. That is so gross. And I wish people would just grow up. I'm so tired of that. And it's gross that we still have these counties in this country where people in charge think like that. It's horrific.
Oh man. When I was growing up, we were riding around like, just back roading, the thing kids, or teenagers, you're bored, go out, it's before cell phones and all of that. So you just run around, do something, get out. Well, we went through a little area called Cottontown, Tennessee, and we made this weird statement you know, that they didn't like. It was we all had, you know, we all had long hair and stuff anyway. I don't like that, but we had a black guy in our car. You know, we're friends with a black guy. Oh my God, right?
Oh my God, how dare you?
Yeah, but we started to run out of gas while we're out. We need to get, you know, we've been running around everywhere. No big deal. They over in Cottontown, it was just amazing to run into towns like this. Cottontown, Tennessee. They were like, nope, you cannot buy gas here. And not only that, yeah, you cannot buy gas. They have one freaking gas station there, and they were like, can't buy gas here.
That's horrific.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot more menacing than described there. Luckily, this happened while the
sounds like a sundown town.
They did. They had a sign that pointed them out as a sundown town.
Holy crap!
Oh, yeah, they used to. You can look them up. They still have. You know, they still had those. Well, they may still.
That's awful.
Who knows? But
that's awful.
I bring that up because a lot of people, you know, they think all that stuff is a myth, you know, and yet,
or that it's somehow in the distant past.
Well, you know, Jeremy, he comes in. He's already an outsider, and these places, they have their old boy network. He challenges their old boy network, and again, on top of that, well. He has
his girlfriend is a little more brown than they're used to.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the mentality coming from well, some people that they decided they would endorse, not put away after he pulled a pew pew on people. You know, you saw what he had to say. So I don't know. But anyway, this Dan Owens here says, can you email me the petition that redacted? Now, obviously, you know who redacted is. You know, they've spent a lot of time talking about them. Filed in order to obtain this order of protection. Well, that's interesting. Can you send it? Why are you gonna uphold it or something? No, of course not.
Of course not.
It's so amazing. If you don't have a copy, please request one from the clerk of Summit County. I want to see if he, meaning Jeremy Hales, committed perjury in the petition.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. You notice, like, this is, again, as you notice across the top, the reason I'm bringing it up is because this was just filed, you know. We're having this as one of the exhibits. I thought it'd be good to start with the exhibit just to point it out. Specifically, though, I want to see what representations he made with reference to redacted residents. Wants to find out about the residents. My understanding,
the residents I think it was Preston's residence, because I figured this out afterwards. Because he means, my understanding is that Preston has no ties to Ohio, so he wants to know specifically where Hale said Preston lives. The chat corrected me on this last time, but this makes sense because what he's trying to find out is, did Jeremy Hales lie on the thing to get an Ohio judge to do this order of protection against Lynette and John? But here's the crazy part. No, he didn't. He didn't lie. He told the judge was well aware that they lived in Florida, and the reason why he was able to bring it was mostly because she started reaching out to people where he lived in Ohio.
Yep. Yeah. She wrote that letter,
threatening him, going to the mayor, trying to run him out of town, like crazy behavior. Yep. She reached into Ohio.
Yep. No, we've actually, I guess this also, we've been talking about things that are brought back into play. This definitely brings in one of my favorite hearings. You remember that little series we got to hear with the toys with Jeremy and the Ohio stuff.
Yeah. Those are great.
Oh, yeah. This brings it all back into play too. But that's crazy. I mean, to investigate this period, first of all, it's such an insult to another state and another state's courts, the judge, because this is like, I know better. I, the prosecutor, know better than judges.
I, the prosecutor of this shitty county that everyone hates, that no one wants to be like, that has a terrible prosecution rate of ARPists, by the way. You're the laughing stock of the entire country, Dan Owen. You can't even prosecute ARPists with DNA evidence. You're so lazy and incompetent. You're the laughing stock of other prosecutors, and yet you have the nerve to think you know better than an Ohio judge? How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Shame.
That was
Shame.
wild to read
Shame.
too. So Megan pulled up we'd started going through different articles, different, let's say, documentaries. There were also those talking about Levy County. Levy County has a very sketchy.
It's well known for corruption. Well known. Like, how embarrassing is it that your county is well known for corruption? You know, I've lived in counties before like that, like Cook County, Illinois. It's embarrassing when your county is named, they call it Crook County instead of its name, Cook County, because it's so well known for corruption. You should be embarrassed to be the prosecutor in a county like that if you're not working hard to correct that issue. You should be embarrassed to try and tell anybody else how to do their job when you can't even prosecute ARP with DNA evidence, Dan Owen. And yeah, your name was mentioned in that article, Dan. It wasn't somebody else's prosecution office. It's yours. You're the one with the problem with this 7% lower, whatever it is, a terrible rate.
Yeah,
actually, it's worse than that, isn't it?
It's unlike 7, it's like 3%. So it's actually half the level, the baseline. It's half the baseline. So that's crazy. When you're one of the bottom rungs, and the case that they were bringing up, and there were more cases, but there was this one really egregious one where this woman was doing training for some job, and this guy violently ended up ARPing her, and there was evidence, weapon, all of that. The plea deal that they gave this guy, first of all, they did not want to go to trial, which is crazy when you have all of that. But the plea deal they gave this guy was such a sweetheart of a deal. It didn't even cause him to be registered as an offender. Like, imagine that. I mean, you have an absolute monster out there, and they get to the prosecution. That is, with prosecutors, the reason that prosecutors supposedly exist is because they're your voice in the judicial system. And that's not being your voice. That's actually working out a deal with the other side. So you secure your win, or it's corruption, whatever the case. It's all corruption no matter what. So that's how we end up with this. It's wonderful. We also, again, with this, if you are keeping score, how many lawsuits is this now, Megan?
That would be 10, Tug.
10 lawsuits. I have to say, again, I do have to say before I note this, that I would never wish this on anyone, for sure. And I hate it for Hales. I hate it for George and all them. But just as a pure entertainment standard, with Jeremy dropping elbow and all that, I'm like, man, I fucking love these cases. This is the wildest thing I've ever seen in my life. Who would have thought, man? Who would have freaking thought? I don't know. Megan was like, "There's something about this. You're gonna like it, Tug." You were right.
Oh, this is a great one, and this is the best lawsuit yet. This one, the reason I like this one so much is because, in all the other cases with Jeremy going after these people in the ecosystem and Lynette Preston and everything, it's strictly for the principle of it. He's never going to see a dime from any of these people, and it's strictly for the principle. But when you talk about going after the county, you talk about going after, Dan Owen here, acting under the color of law. You're talking about taxpayer money, and that's an unlimited pool. And he may actually get reimbursed for all of this trouble that should never have happened if Dan Owen had just done his job. And you know what? The taxpayers, they should be happy to pay what it's going to cost them to pay Jeremy Hales, because Jeremy Hales is a taxpayer too, and they robbed him. They owe him this money. They They robbed him his due process, and you cannot do that when you are a state actor. The federal 1983, man, you can't do that. Deprivation of rights under color of law is illegal.
Well, you know what's funny is they should know that the ecosystem should be cheering that on, considering, remember the Trespass 5 case?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that had one of those claims in it?
Oh, did it?
Remember with the law enforcement officer?
Oh, right.
Yeah, so they should all be cheering that on. They should not want Germany.
That was a state case. They claimed USC 1983. That's a federal statute.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Did they do it wrong? Because that's the wrong court to file that in.
I'm pretty sure they claimed it.
No, you have to file the USC 1983 cases in federal court.
I'm pretty sure they filed that as part of their case, because I just read it the other day, and oh well, I mean, what level of ineptitude aren't you expecting from them? I mean, honestly, anytime you're like, surely that's not going to happen. They couldn't have made a mistake. That's stupid. Oh yeah, they could. They actually could. I'm proud of this case because it's proven me wrong on these cases with just all of this insanity, because it all continues to prove me wrong. I thought these people, they couldn't get any dumber. And they're like, yeah, we can. We actually can. You don't put things like this in writing, like we just looked at. You don't put it in writing when you're obviously, they're breaking the freaking law with this stuff. Obviously, they're denying Jeremy his rights. You don't mail about that. But then again, I don't know if they would want this to go to trial anyway, because it's really crazy to see victim advocates talking to all these people through FOIA and referring to a case where there's a killer involved and saying, hey, well, these people share the same last name. Therefore, I remember that case, Oh, God.
I've been told reliably that you can file a 1983 suit in state court. I've just never seen one. I've only seen them in federal court. I've only seen them so that's just my experience and the ones I have seen are always child custody related cases where they're suing the CPS or hospitals or both. So that's what I've seen. But you can, I guess, file in state court. I've been told that once it gets filed in state court, though, the person getting served usually wants to move it to federal court right away. So maybe that's why I haven't seen a lot of them in state court.
We never got to that point with that at all. You know what I mean? We never got to see how that would play because they never did anything.
They never responded at all, which was funny to me. They just waited it out. So also, I have an answer for you on the date. Do you want to know the answer on the date? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the order from Ohio is communicated to law enforcement by the Ohio courts before it's actually signed. So it was probably communicated to them on the 30th and wasn't signed until the 31st. And so they acted immediately. That was immediately upon receiving it from the Ohio court, where they're like, investigate this. See if he committed perjury.
Away.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Yeah. There it is, right there in Trespass 5. 42 USC
sure
1983.
Okay.
Yeah. I kept thinking, I was like, I believe that's what they went after him. I couldn't remember what.
Good memory. I should always trust your memory because it's always good.
Well, I just read it. I feel like my memory is going. Like it's spotty, but I remember stupid things like that. I don't know. You can't say very much on that either, because like you were like, hey, you remember that thing that Bruce did from blah blah blah? It's like, no, I don't really remember that one. So you were still trapping some of that stuff too. You had that. You freaking had that dagger sharp freaking mind on it. You're like, All right. So again, this involves Jeremy and George. versus Dan Owen, Mr. Levy County. When I put it on, the reason for my thumbnail, I thought about putting Dan Owen on there. No, we'll call him Levy County, because really, you look at what Dan Owen did with this. He's telling the police, this thing, that doesn't matter. And there's some discussion about there being more as well, so we'll see what pops up. But we've seen, just from what we've seen in the FOIA by itself, you can tell, like, there's that. There's also, again, the dismissiveness, the way that they talk about Hales. It's pretty wild. But here we have, again, complaint. We have basics, so we don't need to read this. We just really talked about that. Parties. I think we know the parties too. I'll always like. Well, actually, let's read. Let's read. You know what? I say that, but at the same time,
there could be new people joining, so we should probably. This is a good recap.
Yeah, and on top of that, we have a pretty good lawsuit here. This is it looks good. Now, you never know how a lawsuit will play out. You never know what a judge will do. In fact, sometimes lawsuits like this, when they're first filed, they end up getting shot down and you end up in appeals court. That's typically how, a lot of this stuff ends up playing. It ends up with an appeal decision, and then you end up kicked back. So you may even see it go that route. You see that with a lot of police behavior, for example. Most of those are decided, kicked out, appealed. If something happens with it, it kicks it back down to the court. So who knows? But this, it at least, it's not a crazy lawsuit. This actually makes a lot of sense. So plaintiff Jeremy Hales is blah, blah, blah. I guess we do need to know that he is a resident of Summit, Ohio. Usually I wouldn't note that.
This matters.
Yeah, it matters in this. So, who built his career around his passion through social media, including, without limitation, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and other platforms, with a current YouTube subscriber fan base of over 700,000 people across the world for his YouTube channel, What the Hales. People who subscribe to plaintiff's social media platforms often pay monthly fees to Hales for premium access to Hale's social media platform. Now, you understand, too, when they note this right here, this is important in showing damages. You don't just talk about ads and getting paid by that, but you also talk about the influence that a lot of these moves that we see have on ordinary individuals, how you make money, how you lose money.
Yep. Reoccurring payments are a big part of it.
Which is an open diary of Hale's life. Hale's social media platforms are, you want to pick up on the page here?
Or where people are educated, equipped, and encouraged with a dash of humor on the side. Hales has expended and continues to expend substantial time, money, and resources into acquiring subscribers, providing ongoing programs, and maintaining relationships and goodwill with them. Plaintiff George is a resident of Summit County, Ohio, is the co-host of the YouTube channel What the Hales. Defendant Dan Owen is a state official. It's funny, his middle name is Rex. I don't know why that makes me laugh, but it
Rex,
does.
Baby, get Rex.
Is a state official employed by the state of Florida and is being sued in his individual capacity. Now, the reason why that's important is that that's how you get around the immunity issue.
Yep.
1983, the federal USC 1983 allows for state actors to be sued individually, and that's how you get past that sovereign immunity bullshit.
God,
This court...
I couldn't have the middle name Rex, by the way. Just noting. I would be running around screaming, "Get Rexed!"
We'd be calling you T-Rex.
Yeah. I'd be like, "I'm the short arm of justice."
I can't reach my keyboard.
Oh my God. Yeah, you hear me like, what is that sound? I'm leaning forward. I'm trying to type, Megan. What are you doing? Oh my God. Now I'm going to think of that. Every time I see Dan Owens, I'm going to think he's the short arm of justice.
The short arm. That's what we're gonna call, or low T-Rex. Low T-Rex.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Paula. That's amazing.
Oh, Paula. You win. If there was a prize today, you just won it. That is amazing. Low T-Rex. I love it.
That's what we're gonna call him. Low T-Rex.
That is his nickname. Low T-Rex.
Low T-Rex. So, Low T-Rex is a state official employed by the state of Florida and is being sued in his individual capacity. And this court has subject matter jurisdiction over this action pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1331 and 42 U.S.C. 1983. As this action arises under the Constitution and laws of the United States and alleges deprivation of rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution and laws. Venue is proper in the Northern District of Florida pursuant to the law because the defendant resides in this judicial district. Assignment to the Gainesville Division of this court is proper because the events giving rise to this action occurred in Levy County, Florida, which is within the Gainesville Division of the Northern District of Florida.
Indeed. You know, we've gotten to know Levy County.
God, I hope Blytho doesn't get assigned this case.
Oh my God.
Jesus, please, no. Lord, sweet baby Jesus, sweet baby dumpster Jesus, please, if there's any mercy at all left for Jeremy Hales, please give him a different judge.
You know, I'm really feeling Graves so far. Now, again, we have to see how that all plays, of course. But so far, Graves really got a good feel to him, you know?
Graves, great. Yeah. But this is federal court. So Blytho is a real possibility.
I'm just saying, like, out of any judge that we've had, like, I've liked Graves so far. Like,
I like him too.
He's been, that's what you need. You don't need a guy whose ego is on display, or a guy who wants to be friends with lawyers. They shouldn't want to be your friend, you know? I realize they run across people repeatedly sometimes, but that's not the point. You know, they need to be out there and they need to do their damn job. And I like that with Grabe. I mean, he seems.
Oh, and we're about to be able to show the chat that court footage.
Fun times.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
So that's going to be fun. That's going to be coming up soon.
Okay. Well, do we know when that'll be?
Well, we could do it tomorrow night.
That'll be. Let's see. We've got.
It just depends. We have so much going on.
We've got. Yeah. Let's plan on it, and then something bigger will happen.
Okay.
Yes, that's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
Let's start making definitive plans all the time, because then craziness escalates, and oh my gosh. Man, we need a betting pool. I keep sitting here thinking we need a betting pool for whether or not Lynette is going to show up for that for the thumbnail case. You know,
I know.
We need to see like just if like who's going to call it right or not. Man, I bet you'd get pretty good odds on the if she did show up. I bet you're getting some great odds for that. You know, it's probably like 10-1, 20-1 that she won't.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I really want her to show up, but I don't think she's going to. So I think I would. The smart money I think is on no show.
1 second there. All right, let's continue. Statement of facts. So plaintiffs are protected persons under 2 valid orders of protection. 2 valid orders. That's wild, isn't it? That they just decide, hey, we're going to ignore that. Now, as far as showcasing anything is concerned, I don't need to pull 2 orders of protection, but I will pull up one of the orders of protection just to talk about it. You know, that way. It's It's pretty much the same thing, you know. You know too. You know why people like Jeremy Hales, they don't get taken seriously with protective orders. If you look at under law what is actually being enforced under protective order, you can read it on the protective order itself. It's giving full faith and credit pursuant under the Violence Against Women Act, not violence against persons, and it just shows you, man, these places, especially like if it were just George out there, I still think that, like, this town would probably like be asinine out of it, but the way they've acted about Jeremy. You notice the first thing that came out of the other side's mouth, they were like, he's just a big guy. What am I going to do? I'm elderly, indigent, small. Look how much I weigh, you know?
Right.
I'm built like I'm built like
I
the
liked when
skin of a
she asked him.
Cheerio.
I liked when she was her own lawyer and she was like, Mr. Hales, how much do I weigh? He was like, I don't know. I have no idea. And how tall am I? Again, I don't know. Like, just crazy. But
That's
yeah, you're right.
always the case, though. You know, it is always the case. It's always the weapon. And I mean, again, I'm not saying they would have taken it. Just maybe the small county, they would have been that way anyway with George too. But they definitely, I mean, the bias they've shown is wild. So, 2 orders of protection issued by the state of Ohio. Again, those, if you look, again, we will show one of them. But if you are so inclined, when you look this up, they will be listed, both of them as exhibits. So the protection order, it was issued on or about October 30th, 2023. After a hearing, okay, so the hearing took place on the 10th. All right, there's our hearing date. I couldn't remember the hearing date. I can't remember how long it took to set everything. And like you said, temporary orders. They always kick in temporary orders too. So, in which Lynette Preston, otherwise known as Preston, and John Cook, otherwise known as, likes to talk about his nether regions to men for some reason.
Weirdo.
It's so weird. I actually, as an aside here, I was looking up how many times he's, threatened people, like how he talks, how he likes to make comments like that. And every time he ends up, if it's a man, he ends up talking about, their parts are his parts. And it's like, that's a really weird fetish that he has. I'm not sure. It's strange stuff.
It's a strange obsession.
It is. The persons against whom the order was issued had reasonable notice and opportunity to be heard. Lynette Preston and John Cook both attended the hearing via video conference and represented themselves. So we saw that, by the way. Not only that, we saw people then try everything in their power to undermine that. I've never seen such an insane third-party move as we saw from the ecosystem trying to undermine a protective order. I've never seen anything like it. And to know that these people here, while all this is going on and the violations are being noted, they will not act on it at all. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, and there's like video proof that she had third parties come to her property and then stalk George. It's on video. Follow George, find her car at her house. That's third party contact.
It's menacing.
Third party
is what that is.
stalking. Like it's on video. It is insane. But they know Levy County is going to let them get away with whatever the hell they want.
Well, they said they had quite a few communications with Levy County, quite a few communications with prosecute, which is very strange, by the way. Typically, when you call in a place, you're not talking to the prosecutor's office about someone like that. You're typically talking to the police. But apparently, according to them, again, they when it was brought up, the FOIA. The FOIA, let's say transcript of one conversation, because that was a conversation being put into an email. That wasn't an email being sent forward. That was somebody in office sending it over saying, hey, this has happened. This is how I handled that. But they bragged. They doubled down. They were like, oh, yeah, I did that. Oh, I did that many, many times. But you can't find it because I made calls instead of putting it on paper. So, okay. By the way, that would leave a record of police, too. If they did call the police, there would be a record of that. But I digress. Maybe that's something we will find out later on, too. But the issuing court had jurisdiction over the parties and subject matters under laws of Ohio, 100%. Now, under 18 USC 2265, defendant was required to give full faith and credit to protective order and to enforce them as if they had been issued in Florida. This shouldn't even be a question. I mean, again, God, you even had you had questions answered by Ohio, though, just for the sake of it, saying that Dan Owen somehow, as a prosecutor, doesn't understand how that works. He could have referenced Ohio, where the judge actually talked about that, because in the order that ended up getting leaked, remember in the violations, they had a question. Well, they had hypothetical question and answer time, where they took things that had been brought up. Perhaps they had been brought up when they were talking about violations, and they answered them. So that was kind of interesting.
If you want to know the exact wording of that, of 18 USC 2265, it is very clear. This is what it says. Any protection order issued that is consistent with subsection B of this section by the court of one state, Indian tribe or territory, the issuing state shall be accorded full faith and credit by the court of another state and enforced by the court and law enforcement personnel of the other state, as if it were the order of the enforcing state or tribe. It's not that hard.
Like, it's very
it's one paragraph. It says it shall. It does not say may. It says it shall. And if you're wondering what subsection B is, it's just a definition of what is a protection order, right? The protection, and Randy writes it here, that the parties were given reasonable notice and opportunity to be heard, and that the court had jurisdiction, which it did. So
Crystal noted, by the way, that Chief Judge Alan Windsor was assigned to Hales v. Owen.
That we've already had a judge assigned?
That's what she noted there.
Wonderful. And anyway, you know what? I wasn't even thinking that Jeremy could absolutely just not agree to let it go to a magistrate, and they'll get a federal judge. You can agree to take a magistrate instead, which kind of speeds the process up. And so that's the only way he would be assigned Bolitho again anyway, is if they agreed to it. So obviously he's not going to do that. Obviously they're going to probably go with the federal judge.
Hey, Teresa Finn, aka Writer Chick, I want to send love to her, by the way. She said you relapsing back in the hospital. So,
oh no.
Yeah, love to you, Again, I'm glad
love.
You're checking in. I'm glad to see you here.
Yeah, thank you for checking and letting us know that. We appreciate that.
We keep you in mind, for sure, in prayers. Man, it's amazing. One of the beautiful things that I've loved out of this case is getting to know, there's so many freaking people that I know by name now, that, there are so many good people out there.
I know.
I've met people from I would never known. Yeah, Jeremy, and out of Levy County too. If I were looking at Levy County just from the outside and looking at these cases, I'd be like, my God, this place is insane. All these people are insane. But I've met people that live in Levy County. Like, I've talked to them and said, man, nice, great people. I hate that this is the reflection that, again, by some nuts that really weren't there to begin with. And then also by the old boys club, as it were, places that, again, these people have been called out. The system here has been called out long time before any of this ever happened. Levy County's been on blast for a while. But, okay, so instead of enforcing, though, that protective order as required by federal law, defendant refused to recognize the validity of the orders. That's crazy when you break it down like that and think about it. What's his job? What other job does he have besides that? Honestly, God, it kills me. Exactly. You preach it, brother Tug. That's
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's I don't know what else to say. What else does
No,
he do
seriously.
besides
though.
like, and why? What like? There's nothing going. You know, it looks to me like the people in Levy County who do the prosecuting look for any reason not to prosecute people.
Yeah.
From the precedents to John Cook multiple times now. Now this is the second time they've gone out of their way not to prosecute John Cook for something. Wow. You know what is it about this guy? He can pull a gun on an 8-year-old. He can do whatever. He can violate protection orders issued in another state, and they will go out of their way to make sure he never pays for any of that.
When was the ye old pew pew pulled? What was the date on that? Do you know right off the top of your head?
I do not.
Because
I
you know
don't
it's
but let me see. Maybe I could find it real quick in the Dropbox.
well, if we're talking about a series of dominoes that fall, how do you think a prosecutor's office that refuses to uphold an order of protection, in fact, goes out of their way to investigate the victims of said order of protection?
Yeah,
How do you think-
they investigated. Remember when they investigated Patty?
Yeah. So, and they brought up Hales over and over again. That's what we find out. We find out that they are less interested in Patty and less interested in what happened there, and they're more interested in Hales. So when you look at this series of dominoes, as it were, isn't that bizarre? I mean, when you think about it for real, like you have, again, they're not going to do anything. They've pointed this out. They're letting you know straight up. They would have never done anything.
Mm-hmm.
God, that's criminal as that is criminal is what that is. Because again, you know, unlike any other issue, if somebody out there pulls a pew pew, I have a few things I could if I took it on myself, I'd be afraid if I had to defend myself, I would be afraid Levy County would prosecute me then. I think that's the frightening thing with Hales, you know.
Oh yeah, God
It's like-
forbid he ever gets arrested for anything. They're going to throw the book at him.
No, that creates something too.
Yeah,
That's what
or just make it up. Yeah.
That's so crazy.
All right, so I found the arrest records. So July? Wait, hold on. Of 2024?
Yeah, so we were talking about.
Wait,
I mean, it had been.
hold on.
fairly
Let me. I'm looking at. I might be looking at the wrong thing. Let me pull in on this. It looks like. Where's the date on this? May. No, that's his birthday. Where's the date of the arrest? Why is there no date on here? Oh yeah, July of 2024. July 3rd, 2024 was the date that the revolver was recovered.
So we have it very well established by then.
It was John Cook with the revolver behind the chicken coop, if you recall.
You know, these people, they're firmly established though with prosecutor's office. They very well know who they're dealing with. You know, no mystery meat at all to this one. They know exactly what kind of prize that they're dealing with. But they decide, instead of listening to the victim, it sounds like they interrogated said victim and they tried to find a reason to make her the offending party. You know, it's so wild. Like, when you think about that situation, what did the victim do in that? I mean, how exactly are they trying to write it off? The victim was driving down a road. Somebody starts yelling craziness at them, ends up pulling out a pew pew. And the reason they ultimately say that he could do that, pointed at a kid, was because maybe they were filming. Not that they said anything, but they perhaps had an object that was filming, and they thought that would be enough to trigger stand your ground laws, which I mean, if you look at established precedent, it does not actually do that, by the way. It doesn't come close to doing that. Oh, it's just nuts. I mean, they've decided again back when, if you look at all this stuff, they had firmly decided they will not do anything
Right.
connected to this.
Yeah, the order clearly went out to ignore all complaints from Jeremy Hales.
It's just
or George.
Sad. I wonder what would, I mean, you know, ultimately that they're signing off. They're not just condoning terrible behavior. Their thing at the end of the day, if somebody until somebody gets ended, oh well, no
right.
big deal.
Right. Yep. And here's why this is so bad. It's so bad because Jeremy Hales and George have a right to due process, a constitutional right to due process. They are guaranteed it by the U.S. Constitution. And they are not, Dan Owen deprived them of that due process of law. And he did it acting as a state actor under the color of law. This is the worst thing that a state actor can do to a United States citizen. The absolute worst. Depriving someone of their constitutional rights while they're acting in an official position of the United States government. Damn, Dan. Good work, Dan.
Yeah, for real.
Good work, Dan. You low T-Rex. Low T-Rex. You know, you're a loser, man. This is what you did. You went to law school. You learned about this. You learned that this was the worst thing someone in your position could do. And you did it anyway. And you wrote it down and you sent it by email. You're too stupid to be a prosecutor. You need to be removed simply because you sent that email. You know, most bad prosecutors know better than to write that shit down in email. What did you think? We weren't going to find it? You really thought we weren't going to find it? I know you tried to keep it away from everybody, but you failed.
That is true. It is very, very true. Hey, by the way, let me ask the chat this. I'm curious. So we heard that a certain channel out there ended up getting suspended, but I'm very confused about what happened to them. You know, I'm curious about. You know, I forgot to ask this at the beginning.
They're blaming us, and I have no clue about any of it other than people just kept telling me that they're on Rumble only. And you know, if someone did strike them, by the way, I would just like anybody who is in conversation with these people. You know, YouTube tells you who did it. You don't strike somebody's channel and you do it anonymously. You do it and then they tell the person who struck them. So if it was a copyright strike, they would absolutely know who did it. And they're pretending like they don't know who did it.
It's got to be a community guideline strike. It has to be because, you know.
Right. If it were a copyright strike, it literally tells them your video was struck by this creator for this content. And I've had that happen. We've all had it happen. We know what the emails look like. Of course, they're not going to show any receipts. I'm not even sure if it's real. Like they could be completely lying about it. Also, because they're gearing up to try and get all of us, you know, taken down through mass flagging. They were talking about
mass flagging. That's the thing. That's the reason I note it because, you know, somebody sent me a clip where hundreds of people are being told to mass flag specific channel. I thought, you know, that's a big violation on the platform. Not only is that, but getting banned, going on a competitor and then telling people to come back to that platform and mass flag people, that's kind of messed up, don't you think? You know?
Yeah, if it was a copyright strike, they'd be able to tell you who did it. So if they're saying it's a copyright strike and they don't know who did it, that's a lie.
Yeah.
That's an absolute lie. That does not happen. You can't copyright strike someone without giving your information and having that turned over to the person who took your content. Yeah, you guys all know we don't mass flag, we don't flag things, we don't take down channels, etc. Like that for fair use or whatever.
I've been enjoying the shit show with the money thing, man.
Yeah,
want that to go away. What's happening?
And there's no way for us to tell, by the way, if they're telling the truth about that channel being frozen or whatever. It's not like YouTube puts up a notice. They could just be making it up for ratings or whatever, you know,
so they can get it rolling again.
Yeah. So to get people interested, you know, I mean, I admit I haven't thought about them in days until somebody was like, oh, they're frozen. I was like, what? And now I'm being blamed for it, of course. You know, So.
Yeah, I got sent the let's call for mass flagging by them, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh yeah. So that's how I heard about it, because otherwise, for me, I pulled the transcript to see if only me, and I just figured the show wasn't on or something, but apparently it was everybody else. But anyway, let's continue. So defendant initiates an investigation. So here we have a chain of events. All right, just to make this clear, we have protective order. We have, again, defendants supposed to honor. Instead of honoring, refuses to recognize the validity. Going further than that, we have Dan Owens initiating an investigation into whether plaintiff Hales has been truthful when obtaining the protective order in Ohio's. Defendant in an email dated 10/30/2023. Again, we've seen this here, but still, it is part of this. Notes to the undersheriff. Again, forget his name for a minute. Let's look at who they are. This is the undersheriff / legal advisor for Levy County's sheriff's office. Writes them and tells them again, hey, give me that order of protection, or get that order of protection, because I want you to look at it and I want you to figure out if Jeremy Hale's lied here. That's crazy.
It is.
This will be you, by the way.
A copy of this email is attached here too as Exhibit 3. By investigating the truthfulness of plaintiff's statements in the original protection order proceeding, defendant effectively relitigated the merits of the order. Yeah, that's not his job. On or about October 31st of 2023 through at least May 1st of 2024, both plaintiffs were present in the state of Florida in Levy County, and on at least 3 occasions beginning in November 2023, presented the protection orders to the Levy County Sheriff's Office requesting enforcement. Again, instead of enforcing the protection orders as required by federal law, defendant refused to recognize the validity of the orders. On or about November 20th, 2023, George reported protection and enforcement of the orders on to S. Williamson, number 710 of the Levy County Sheriff's Office, who stated in writing a report, I reviewed the assistant state attorney defendant's email, Dan Owen's email, regarding this matter. It reads that Dan Owen would caution against enforcing this injunction. By the way, this is the email that they are withholding from Jeremy Hales to this day. The email that we know exists because this deputy wrote about reading about it. They are withholding this email. They refuse to turn it over. And do you know what their excuse is? Do you know what it is, Tug? Did you hear the excuse?
What's that? They
are exempt from handing it over because it's part of a current ongoing investigation.
Yeah.
But they won't tell us, they won't tell anyone what investigation involves this email.
I'm telling you, kid, if these morons, absolutely, they pull any shenanigan bullshit, and they try to step, especially like if they have humored Preston about something like the sign expert, like she keeps trying to say, if they, oh my God, you talk about it will rain hellfire down.
Discovery is going to be amazing in this case.
They don't want
you guys have not seen anything until you've seen government discovery, because they will always hold things back in FOIA to the public, but they will not be able to hold it back in front of a judge. They will not be able to give this judge any bullshit about, well, it's currently under investigation, so we don't have to release it. The judge is going to be like, fuck you, turn it over. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen, is the judge is going to be like, nope, I need to see it. And that's going to be it. A court order by a judge supersedes their, rules about investigation. Just wait. It's going to be awesome. So anyway, it reads that Dan Owen would caution against enforcing this injunction. George was made aware of this and was told this report would be for documentation only. George advised she has a video of the event, which I will attach to this report when it is provided.
That's insane.
By the way, that if that sheriff's deputy keeps his job, I will be shocked. They will bounce that guy. They will bounce him for writing this down, for admitting that email exists. If he hasn't already been demoted, he will be soon. As a result of defendant's refusal to enforce the protection orders, Plaintiffs were deprived of the protection guaranteed by federal law. Plaintiffs have suffered continuous harm to each plaintiff victim's sense of safety and well-being as a direct result of defendants' failure to enforce the protection order.
I mean, that's true, though. How could you feel safe when you have law enforcement saying, yo, the state attorney said, don't enforce that. I caution you against enforcing this injustice. There is no world where this is okay. They don't have to like a Jeremy Hales. They have a job to do. Their job, they decided, they took it on themselves to investigate the victim in a crime, to find a way to punch a hole in a protective order, which is crazy. What that tells you is that they have it out for the man. They do. I mean, right here, it blows my mind, man. They deserve to be sued. They do. But he deserves more than that. See, ultimately, with these kind of lawsuits, what really happens is, again, like Megan said, taxpayers, they end up paying it. And these people, what happens to them typically? Fuck all. Nothing. A best case scenario, a little pat on the wrist, you know? But nothing really happens. And finding out, again, them talking about investigating Hales, really? I'd love to hear what they think they would investigate. Again, we've seen what's there, a civil trial. That there's no, as it's been noted repeatedly, there is no criminal trial there. As far as the one layer of fence, I'm thinking of everything they've tried to complain about. You know, the one fence that you can look on each side of and see beyond, and on top of it, you could see over until they built a garbage mount on top of the thing. There's no way to call that a violation. If I can drive down the road and film, you can't trespass eyes. That, you know, that's one of the things that I think we've learned online, you know, with auditors, you know, they go out, they film whatever, they film banks, they film secure places, as long as you're in an area that is admissible for the public. You know, if I'm driving down the road, I have a camera. You can't trespass my eyes. You can't keep me from just driving down the road and
seeing what you see and filming what you film. If it's available, if it's seen from the public way, you can't stop that.
But, you know, so let's see, signs, you can't, that one, what else is there? Well, it's all BS, you know, and ultimately the people, again, there should be a massive issue with third-party violators coming to Levy County and stalking people, like Megan noted. And instead, you find out that they were looking into them. Why would they ever feel that they're safe?
Right. I wouldn't. And I'm sure they don't.
They noted on here, including, without limitation, physical harm and threats of such harm. Emotional and psychological harm as a result of Preston and Cook intimidating and threatening behavior, assault with yeo pew pew, causing mental distress to the plaintiffs. Again, I love how that gets dismissed like it's not a big deal. If somebody were to pull something like that on you, or they were to pull that on Dan Owen, how do you think Dan Owen would react to that? You know, would he just be like, you know, somebody needs to investigate Dan Owen because I swear. But fear of death or bodily injury due to Preston and Cook's persistent and obsessive behavior, impact on plaintiffs' daily lives and safety. That's one thing I've noticed over time. Like one of the things, like the impact on Hales, he has had to go from, you know, anybody can drop by and say hey to, you know, he's not even going to do public appearances anymore. He's at the point now where he doesn't want to be in public or announce to anyone where he's going to be. That means he can't do charity events anymore. Yeah, that was a major part of his channel. Mm-hmm. Well, we just saw a very when you think about the backdrop of everything, again, I'm not comparing situations, but we just saw loony fucking person in somebody
Mm-hmm.
at a speaking event on a college. We saw that nationally. That proves to you that there are crazy people out there. And then when you look at some of the people that have been attaching themselves to this case here, and you look at who they are and what they represent, man.
And John Cook, we have messages from John Cook that say he's fine. He'll go to jail. The older you get, the less jail, the idea of life in prison bothers you. What else would you get life in prison for? He said he would, end him and feed him to alligators. This is the guy he has a protection order against that Levy County Sheriff and Dan Owen refuse to do anything about. They have told, Dan Owens told the police, told the sheriff, do not enforce this by email. And that email he's holding on to like the Holy Grail. I
understand why. I understand why. Because
that email, Dan, if you're listening to this, that shit's coming out. You might as well just hand it over because it will come out. You cannot destroy that. We know it exists.
It's something else, man. What this does right here, Dan, is it potentially brings a lot of eyes to you and your behavior. And again, your attempts to retaliate against two victims. I know they always like to play it off like it's all just Hales, and that's bad enough. But George would be a face the media would love, I mean, giant government decides to target, that they would love that. So I'd be careful, Dan. I would be very careful in that because you might just end up splashed all over media headlines, man.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, folks, there are 3,200 of you today. Appreciate you folks showing up. If you'd let people know we're live, of course. Thank you again for being here. Hit that like button. It's right there, little thumbs up. So pretty. And also, if you want to go forward, why don't you send us a little bit of that T-Rex money? That's right. T-Rex. Oh, my God. Slam down your bills. Make sure you aren't the low T-Rex. He is. If you want to send some breadstick money, I don't even know. I can't get it out of my head now. I'm going to imagine him as a little T-Rex every time. I am a low T-Rex. But yes, if you would like to support the channel, you'd like to go further, consider your breadsticks. And as always, thank you, folks. But through this, so daily live and safety and great financial harm as a result of Preston and Cook being emboldened. That's the thing too. This is something we talked about. It's the thing you see with the ecosystem repeatedly. If something doesn't check their behavior, they're told, hey, this is okay. And they go, and they're not pushing a line. Once you have a protective order in place, they're not seeing a line and seeing how far they can push against it. They're stepping over and seeing how far they are miles beyond a protective order. They are. I mean, the third party stuff alone.
Jeremy would never have had to sue them if the Levy County Sheriff had just enforced the order that he got. He would not have had to spend. You could make the argument that all of his attorney's fees that he has had to pay so far to contain this situation are owed to him by Levy County for not doing their jobs.
Well, the question remains too: how does he ever feel? Not just that. Okay, how is he supposed to ever feel safe in Levy County? Like he knows how they, as law enforcement, feel about him. They've let it be known. So the property there and everything. Sure, he has a nice place. He wants to pump money into the local economy and really the state economy. He's pumping a lot of money through that one place. He could help revitalize it, but instead, he knows that if there's ever a problem, and there has been, that they ordered the police not to help out. They ordered them. That's what they admit to, by the way. That's what they put in writing. When I see stuff like this, what it makes me wonder is, what are they afraid not to write down?
Yeah.
See, when I see bad behavior, I think about this. Well, like with the ecosystem, for example, when you see the behavior that people they put fully on display. They're not ashamed of. What would they be ashamed to say? What would they be afraid of getting caught writing down? And this right here, that's a scary thought, because they were okay with writing this down. Now, they knew after they got caught, they were like, whoopsie, maybe I shouldn't have written that down. But they were okay with writing it down. So now for claims for relief. Count 1, violation of civil rights. This is what Megan was talking about for 42 U.S.C. 1983. Failure to give full faith and credit to protection order. That's a huge deal, by the way. So plaintiff, again, as we see, everything that came before this that is repeated and realleged. We have defendant acting under color of state law. The defendant was acting in the capacity as a state official when he refused to enforce plaintiff's protective order, instead investigating their validity. So, I mean, like I said, that's crazy. Nope, not going to enforce it. Instead, we're going to investigate you. You are now, because you got a protective order, you are the criminal. Craziness. Defendant had a duty under federal law to give full faith and credit to plaintiff's protective order. Indeed, 18 U.S.C. 2265 requires that protective orders issued by one state be given full faith and credit by officials in another state, provided the issuing court had jurisdiction and afforded due process. Yes, and it's not, again, small bumpkin Dan Owens. It's not his place to be investigating under the court. That's so messed up. Defendant deprived plaintiff of rights secured by federal law. Indeed.
By refusing to enforce plaintiff's valid protection orders and instead investigating the truthfulness of plaintiff's statements. Oh, I almost wish he had used the word truthiness. That would have really nailed it for me. Truthiness. Yeah. Investigating the truthiness of plaintiff's statements. In obtaining the order, defendant violated plaintiff's federally protected rights to have the order enforced across state lines. Yep. Defendant's actions were the proximate cause of plaintiff's damages. Yep. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's failure to enforce the protection orders, plaintiff suffered continuous harm to each plaintiff and victim's sense of safety and well-being as a direct result of defendant's failure to enforce the protection orders, including without limitation, 1, physical harm, threats of harm, emotional and psychological harm as a result of Preston and Cook's intimidating and threatening behavior, assault with the revolver behind the chicken coop, causing mental distress to the plaintiffs, fear of death or bodily injury due to Preston and Cook's persistent and obsessive behavior, impact on plaintiffs' daily lives and safety, and great financial harm as a result of Preston and Cook being emboldened by defendant's failure to enforce the protection orders. Preston and Cook enlisted others in a civil conspiracy to harm Hales as a result of Preston and Cook being emboldened by Dan Owen's failure to enforce the protection orders, causing Hales significant and ongoing financial harm since defendant's failure to enforce the protection orders.
That's a huge statement right there, too. All of the stuff that you're seeing playing out in
it's court, all Dan's fault.
Really. Yeah.
Blame Dan Owen. I'm going to write a new song. Blame Low T-Rex.
I mean, really, it does. A lot of it falls on him because ultimately, if the party is not going to do what they're ordered to do, it falls on people to enforce the protective order. To enforce. And when they didn't, again, they became emboldened.
The law doesn't mean nothing. The law means something. And you can't just ignore it. You can't just ignore court orders. Even if you're a prosecutor of Levy County and you think that you're some kind of big man on campus, you're not allowed to just ignore court's orders, you dumbass.
It's craziness, man. By the way, I will hit there, maybe not. Emmy, others, yes, I just did that, so I appreciate the updates.
All right, everyone may stand down. Tug has taken his meds.
Taking the meds. No, actually, like I said, I very much appreciate. First of all, I'm absent-minded on some things. Like, again, I get focused on, like today, all I wanted to think about is the lawsuit. Like, let's see what kind of proof there is, for shooting that lawsuit down, because that freaking law, I mean, it's aimed at somebody I know, with that, but there's just so many things in there that are wrong. They are wrong. And I don't know. I've been looking through that all day. Well, you know how that is. I mean, you have the same process on it. Oh, like, this is so messed up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the beginning, he's like, I didn't know. Foreman thinks that I'm responsible for the lawsuit.
Well, who else was responsible for the thumbnail? Is he kidding? It was totally his idea, and I can prove it because he's the one who cooked it up, and he did it on a live stream.
Yeah, he talks about this. That's the amazing thing.
You talk too much, Bruce.
Well, what's weird is I guess they think when they remove the live streams that.
Yeah, that's not how any of that works, because we have all the transcripts, whether their videos were removed or not. I have them all. So good luck.
There will be some interesting discussion over that too. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's something else. But anyway, so count 2. Violation of due process rights under 42 USC 1983. So again, everything before this, it is all repeated and realleged. Yes, also under color of state law. Not to minimize that. That's a huge statement. It's just repeated there. But defendant was acting in capacity as a state official when he refused to enforce the protective order and instead investigated the validity. Again, a huge statement there. Plaintiff had a protected liberty interest. He has a protective plaintiffs have, and plaintiffs had a protected liberty interest in the enforcement of valid protective order, which were designated to ensure plaintiffs' safety and security. You know what this says too? It says that if you have a protective order, they get to decide who has a valid one and who doesn't. Like, that's crazy for a prosecutor to step in and to say, police, I'm circumventing what you do,
Mm-hmm.
He's gone through again, they're supposed to decide whether or not they'll press charges. But they're supposed to let the police at least investigate. I mean, if he put out a blanket statement saying essentially what he did is put out a blanket statement saying any action is okay. Everything is okay,
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Stark, I'll set an alarm on my phone and then I'll mute my phone out for the show. That's been my problem with stuff, because
Right.
If I don't mute my phone out, like, you'll hear it going ding 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 the whole freaking show. So that's the one thing I ran into. What I need to do is bring in some, maybe this weekend I'll get some old school clock and bring it in here. And you'll hear it about a certain ding, ding.
Yeah,
So
the
like
one that
Titanic.
sounds the ones that sound like a nuclear bomb warning.
Indeed. Yeah, you have 5 minutes before the end. Oh no, the end of what? The end of taking your pill time. Oh, okay. But let's see. Defendants deprived plaintiff of that interest without constitutionally adequate process. That is indeed true. He investigated them behind the scenes. He took the protective order. He denied when he decided to investigate them. He adds on this other letter telling people not to enforce. He's denied them due process. No, it doesn't matter what happens. Again, they have no adequate process, which, again, constitutionally protected. Come on, babies.
Mm-hmm.
By unilaterally deciding to investigate the basis for the protection order rather than enforcing them as required by federal law, defendant deprived plaintiff of the liberty interest in the protection orders without any constitutionally adequate process, and the decision to investigate the truthfulness of plaintiff's statement in obtaining the orders effectively nullified the order without any hearing or other process. There you go. Again, denial of due process. Him saying, hey, I'm going to investigate. But it goes farther than that, because you said they're holding another letter that is mentioned by someone else. And it goes much further than just investigation. But that alone, that kind of statement, yeah, it nullifies the order. It's saying, oh, that thing, well, it's questionable. They contact multiple people. And when they hear that, when you hear, hey, the prosecutor over here, they're looking into the truthfulness of this claim, do you think anybody wants to enforce that?
Right. And also, I love the way this is worded. It effectively nullified the orders without any hearing or other process. You know what that is? That means no due process.
Yep.
He violated Jeremy's due process. This is a very unique case because they have it in writing from the prosecutor himself. This would be a very difficult case if they did not have it in writing.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's what we were saying. It was pretty dumb of them. It's pretty flagrant of them. They're telling you point blank that they don't fear any kind of ramification.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can do whatever I want. It's craziness. So our prayer for relief. Let me roll this down. Give me a second. Let me see how. Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of it. All right. You want to hit this?
Sure. A declaration that defendant's failure to give full faith and credit to plaintiff's out-of-state protection orders violated 18 U.S.C. 2265 and plaintiff's constitutional rights. Compensatory damages against defendant in an amount to be determined at trial for the injuries suffered by plaintiffs as a result of defendant's unlawful conduct. Punitive damages against defendant in an amount to be determined at trial for defendant's willful, malicious, or reckless disregard of plaintiff's federally protected rights. Reasonable attorney's fees and costs incurred in bringing this action. Injunctive relief requiring Dan Owen and those acting in concert with defendant to give full faith and credit to valid protection orders from other states and to refrain from investigating the basis for such orders except as permitted by federal law. I love this. This is like,
that is good.
Tell them they can't do this ever again.
Right.
We want an order, a court order that says, Dan Owens, you're a bad, bad man and you shouldn't have done this. Don't do it again.
Tell him your job description actually matters.
Yeah.
I mean,
that part. That's really funny. That's like
it does. That's good.
Issue
I like
order yelling and humiliating Dan Owens. That's what number 5 is. And number 6, such other relief as the court deems just and proper. That's number 5 is probably my favorite part of the relief. Yeah, I love that. I want injunctive relief. I want a court order that tells the world how bad of a prosecutor Low T-Rex is.
Yep.
And making sure that no one ever follows in his stupid footsteps ever again. And demand for a jury trial. Plaintiffs demand a trial by jury on all issues so triable. Now, it's true that this will immediately face an immunity hurdle. And I can't tell you whether or not they'll get past it. And like Tug said, a lot of times these things end up in appeal because getting past the immunity is very difficult. It really is. Our government, if our government is known for one thing, it is for protecting itself.
Yeah, yes.
It will protect itself against the common person. And Dan Owen has a lot on his side in this, in the fact that the courts always want to side with immunity for themselves and for those who work for them. And that is going to be the biggest hurdle. It is, we will have to wait and see what happens. I have seen many cases fall to immunity, which sucks. And immunity is a thing that is widely overused in our government and in our court system. But it's very difficult to find judges who don't want to just immediately give some state actor immunity. And I hope that will not happen here. And I will hope for the best. But I definitely think this case has a lot of merit, especially because Dan's so stupid that he wrote it down.
Yeah, like they screwed up there. You know, again, we may be looking at, and these things can be a lengthy issue too. That is.
This is not going to be quick.
No, this will be this, unless they decide they want to come to the table and settle, which they have. It's not like it comes out of their pocket. That's what you run into. I mean, why would they, like, you or I, if we end up in something and we knew 100% we were at fault, we'd be talking about a lot of money, a lot of time, and potentially all of that coming out of our pocket. But for them, they're playing with your money. And that happens repeatedly. We see case after case like that. They like to protect themselves, like Megan said. Let's look at the protective order too. Let's actually look at that. This is one of the first times we've actually had it attached, or we saw them leak pieces of protective orders, but this is actually part of this case. So it puts to bed any stupidity, where people, when they talk about this protective order, they don't seem to understand it from the ecosystem. They don't understand how protective orders work at all. And it's weird because you can look them up and it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, here again, it tells you how this stuff works. For the warning to respondent or defendant violating the attached protective order, it's a crime that Dan Owens, by the way, should have been enforcing, punishable by incarceration, fine, or both, and may cause revocation of your bond, as a result, contempt of court, citation against you. So it talks about, again, where this is enforceable. This is important too, because a protective order is enforceable in all counties in Ohio and 50 states, District of Columbia, tribal lands, etc., etc. It is valid everywhere. That's what they're telling you there. Only the court may change the terms there. The petitioner or the alleged victim, whomever, they cannot give you legal permission to change it. If you go near that person, even with their permission, you may be arrested. Only the court can change or end that. Unless the court changes or ends the order, you may be arrested for violating the order. You act at your own risk if you disregard this. Now, they also tell, with the petitioner or alleged victim, you cannot change the terms. So when it's laid out, it's laid out. And it's not like the petitioners here wanted to change the terms. They had them changed on them, essentially with the, we will not follow them up. Only a court may change it up. Notice about firearm and other deadly weapons. As a result of a protection order, consent agreement, it is a federal crime for you to possess. Are they allowed to have a firearm?
Yes. Which
why?
Is because and I don't know why the judge crossed it out, because if you notice in later part of the document, the taking of the firearms is crossed out, and I have no idea why. I don't understand why they didn't.
Yeah, see, I don't get that. I don't understand.
Especially considering he drew a weapon on him.
Yeah.
2 times.
I mean, you would think
times?
that would be yeah.
And threatened him with something will go bang bang, remember? In that video. So I don't understand that at all. But yes, they're allowed to have them. It is a failure, but they have allowed them to keep their firearms.
I mean, it kind of blows my mind there. So notice to all law enforcement agencies and officers, the attached protection order is enforceable in all counties in Ohio. Violation of the protection order is a crime under, they tell you, law enforcement officers with power to arrest under that for violations of Ohio Revised Code must enforce the terms of protective order, are required to, If you have reasonable grounds to believe that has been violated, it is preferred course of action in Ohio to arrest and detain the respondent until a warrant may be obtained. That's weird, isn't it? So when you look at the way that this, the preferred method, and it says this in every state, by the way, it says the same damn thing. It just changes up some of the verbiage. But it's like, hey, if there's a problem and you think this has been violated, arrest and detain. Make sure that the victim here, they are safe. And that is the failure that we have alleged here. It's so wild. So we have our people, we have the court finding. So the court here, they noted that jurisdiction, that it hereby ordered that the respondent be restrained from committing acts of abuse or threats of abuse. Yeah, that didn't work out. Other protected persons in this order, terms are effective until, so they gave their date on this original order here. They noted too, I thought this was interesting to bring up, petitioner presented credible testimony and evidence in support of a civil stalking protection order. The court specifically notes that petitioner and resident are neighbors at the property located in Florida, that this court order issued in Ohio. So look, they're talking about where people, you have it spelled out right away. So Dan Owens first of all, he shouldn't have been investigating, period. But on top of that, it notes, hey, these people here, as for respect to this property in Florida, they're neighbors with that. And then the Ohio stuff. They went in fully aware what was going on in Florida, and yet, like Megan said, things crossed over into Ohio. So there's a reason for it all there. But the court order issued in Ohio must be given full faith and credit pursuant to the Violence Against Women Act, 18 U.S.C. 2265. So they tell them, straight up, you gotta do this, got to. So the court further notes that when the parties are located on their own property, distance is reduced to 10 feet. When parties are not in their respective properties, distance 500 feet. That includes any internet and or electronic communications. This should be noted that includes third parties. When these third parties, they go out every single day and they attack somebody on behalf of other people. Not talking about a court case. I mean, we saw them actively recruited in. It's craziness. Here's some of the scratching out, by the way. Mm-hmm. So the court finds by preponderance of the evidence that respondent has knowingly engaged in a pattern of conduct that caused the petitioner to believe that respondent would cause physical harm or has caused mental distress. And the following orders are equitable, fair, and necessary to protect the person named in this order from stalking offenses. So again, it's broken down pretty much very well. Again, respondent shall not enter residence, school, business, place of employment, daycare, childcare, etc., even with permission.
That would include the post office.
That's right.
Levy County.
Any building. It says including buildings, grounds,
Walmart,
parking lots.
The village hall.
I mean, it shouldn't even be a question. Like if you find somebody, and they want to act like, they treated Jeremy like it's some kind of insane conspiracy. When you have somebody that threatens you and makes you feel very uncomfortable in a situation, you don't want them around you ever. You see them, you find out that they're somewhere. You want them out of there immediately. And it's their responsibility to get the fuck out. They are supposed to be cognizant of what's going on around them. And they absolutely knew, by the way, the post office, so they knew they were violating. Like the judge said with the violations, it's a small town. They know whose vehicles are out there and everything. It's not something that you would miss. They only have a few buildings in this place. It's not like, going to a major city or something. We're not trapped in Gainesville, Mm-hmm. So this is the defendant distance that is noted. Respondent shall not initiate or have any contact. Again, now notice this. This is very important. This is talking about them, but third party too. It says they don't have any contact with protected persons named in the order, residence, business, place of employment, school, daycare center, child provider. That contact includes, but it's not limited to, everything in its mother. Mm-hmm. Landlines, emails, faxes, posting
emails to his clients or his sponsors or his school where he teaches, or by anybody.
But you notice
third parties trying to get him canceled, trying to get his business destroyed. You can't do that. Any of those things.
It notes blogging, which is an we're not talking about Again, it's talking about harassment of any form whatsoever, and it says, or communications by any other means, directly or through another person.
Mm-hmm.
Third party.
Or group of people.
Yes.
Even an ecosystem, perhaps.
And you can't violate, even if he wanted you, he was like, yeah, it's okay to have contact with me. There is no way that they're allowed to have contact. And the reason we bring this up, the reason we talk about the description, these people do not seem to understand, Marla Hughes talking to you, what third-party communications are. That doesn't mean that a person just reaches out to me and directly initiates contact. You can harass and stalk, and the act of stalking doesn't necessarily mean that they've made contact with a person. They could be following them around, talking about what type of vehicle they have, talking about them, when they follow them around on live stream, for example. That sounds stalkery, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Mm-hmm.
These people, man. This is going to be an interesting lawsuit, though. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Again,
well, it will also be one of the first of its kind. This is a very unique case. And I don't believe it would have a chance if Dan Owen had not written down what he wrote.
Right.
Because the court would his argument would be it was a prosecutorial decision and he would get absolute immunity. But because of the investigative part of this, where he appears to be, or he is asking for an investigation, he may have stepped out of his role as a prosecutor into an investigator, which would possibly knock him down to qualified immunity, where then there's an argument of, can we strip him of it? Like, he's in trouble. He's in trouble. Now, I'm not saying that it's a slam dunk win, but this could be a precedent setting case if Jeremy Hales does win, because what you have here that you don't have in other cases, and I've looked these up, I've looked for other cases like this. What we have here that are not in other cases is literal evidence that the prosecutor ordered the sheriff to stand down. That is wild.
This whole thing is wild, man. And again, I'm glad that they're being called out for this insanity, because ultimately, regardless, again, I don't care if a person likes or dislikes a person that has been named with that. If you have a protective order, if they're not enforcing this thing because they arbitrarily decide that no police officer should ever look into any claim for enforcement, what kind of message does that send? That it doesn't matter if you have a legit order out there. It doesn't matter what a judge says. Ultimately, Dan Owens is the judge.
Yeah, and by the way, so this is a very important distinction in deciding immunity in cases. In order to get that immunity, you have to be acting in your role as the prosecutor or the judge, right? If you're a judge, you have to be acting in your role as the judge. There was a case where a judge literally came off the bench and accompanied police and the litigants to a home and ordered, physically raided this guy's home herself to take marital property and give it from one spouse to another. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Well, that judge lost her immunity because she was acting as a police officer instead of as a judge, which she could not do. There's another case that I covered extensively. And Judge Eric Amy in Missouri came off the bench and took 2 children to jail under the courthouse and put them in a cell because they refused to go to visitation with their mother. Now, had he ordered them put into a cell, he would have been okay. He would have been acting as a judge, but he didn't do that. He got off the bench and took them himself. So he was acting in the role of a police officer, of a bailiff. And so he lost his immunity for that as well. Dan Owen, unfortunately, sir, You have taken your role as the prosecutor, tossed it aside, and you became an investigator, it looks like to me. And you aren't an investigator. You don't run the police. Like, you investigated, you ordered an investigation of a court order that you don't have authority over. I don't think that's in your job description. Now, a court's going to have to decide that, but I think it looks pretty bad. It looks similar to those other cases.
Well, he also, in that, he notes, he's like, hey, essentially, have you seen this thing? You know, I want you to look into this and investigate it. So it seems like they don't know what the matter is, but they've already decided first of all, there should be no investigation, period. But even beyond that, his statements, they very well make it clear it doesn't matter. Like, when you start asking somebody to do all of this, what they're telling you again is that is nullified. Like the lawsuit says, the unspoken message is very clear in that. But they were dumb enough to put some of this in writing. God, I can't believe they would put that in writing.
Yeah, and again, this is one of the hardest fights that there is, overcoming an immunity hurdle. So I don't want to give the impression that I think this will be an easy win. I have no idea. It's going to be very, very difficult. Okay, it's going to be hard.
It's a slog too.
It is stacked. The chips are stacked against Jeremy Hales, as usual, and they always are stacked against the citizen trying to go up against a government agent for deprivation of rights. You are always going to come up first and foremost against the immunity issue. But these issues can be defeated. They can be, and it's very possible. What we have here look like the elements that could lead to overturning of immunity, and I'm very interested in this case. This case is gonna it could be groundbreaking, because and I could be wrong with my research, because I don't have access to all the legal databases that one needs to find these things. But from what I've been able to find, I can't find one where this has been successful, because one of the major hurdles is because in the other cases, it was a passive unenforcement of another state's protection order, right? Where they just didn't do it. They just didn't enforce it. And so they got immunity because they were acting in their role as officers or whatever, sheriffs, just not enforcing something. What they don't have in those cases is a written directive to not enforce.
Right.
You see,
I mean,
that's the difference.
wild.
And that's what makes it so interesting.
I mean, I've seen some egregious stuff, but this is pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Hey, can you hold this for like 2-3 minutes, and then I'll be right back.
Sure. So here's one. Imbler v. Pachtman in 1976 announced absolute immunity for prosecutors when acting in their role as advocates in judicial proceedings. But the court in later cases, notably Burns v. Reed and Buckley v. Fitzsimmons, make clear that advice or investigative functions directed at police are not necessarily protected by absolute immunity. Those acts may be reviewed under qualified immunity instead. Burns held absolute immunity for a prosecutor's participation in a probable cause hearing, but not for giving legal advice to police. Isn't that interesting? Buckley reinforced that giving legal advice or conducting investigative functions is not an advocacy function deserving absolute immunity. More recently, several circuits, the Sixth Circuit and Reeves, have applied those principles to hold certain pre-prosecutorial or advisory acts are not absolutely immune. Curious. So this is what's going to make it really, really interesting and exciting, because this could be the first case that is won on this. This, because of Dan Owen writing it down. Really, that's it.
I am back. Ooh, I'm back, baby. This is a wild case. I mean, the last two, this whole thing is so insane. Again, 10 cases so far have spawned out of it. And when you're looking at it, like this is a very legitimate grievance, very
Mhm.
legitimate. You know, when again, you you have the expectation that law enforcement is going to be able to uphold your protective order, and that prosecutors will actually prosecute people for violations of said protective order. I mean, I think that's it's not even reasonable. That is like the lowest bar we could have, that a prosecutor will prosecute if there's a violation. Wow.
Mm-hmm. And I found case law where, Tug, I was just reading to them, where it has been decided that if a prosecutor participates in giving legal advice to police, that is not advocacy that deserves absolute immunity. And so they've looked at it as that there have been prosecutors who have lost their immunity. They've had to fight the qualified immunity instead of the, sovereign immunity. And so in this case, it's really not a slam dunk for Owen. It's not. Brazilla's Realm says, Megan, I'm calling him Terribilis Rex. Oh, that's funny. That's really funny.
That's funny. All right, I'm gonna hit some super chats. Are you chilling or are you bouncing?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I've got stuff to do, and I need to go to sleep. I'm tired. But you guys have fun. It's been fun.
We'll catch you tomorrow. See ya.
All right. See ya.
Yes, tomorrow, folks, we will continue the insanity. I mean, this stuff, it is as active as ever. I mean, we've had a lot popping off. Plus, again, with the Bruce lawsuit in this, we have a lot to look at. We have a lot to discuss. I mean, we've been going through, again, looking at all of the, we started last night. Again, if you missed that, that live stream, it is wild to look at what Bruce is alleging about Larry, especially since Bruce is, he was complaining about someone calling him a scumbag, and it very well looks like Larry was quoting Bruce, for example, in that. He talks about Larry discussing him potentially going to jail, and it's like, well, that comes from Bruce's own filing, which we ended up pulling for something to talk about. And I mean, there's so many items that you can stack up against that. Plus, at the end of the day, too, we have well over a dozen, like for myself, individual emails inviting coverage, inviting all of this stuff. And what's really, really interesting is if a lot of these problems that Bruce noted about Larry are actually issues, then again, he talks about like somebody saying that they shouldn't have a license and should be reported to the bar. Well, Bruce did that. Bruce absolutely did it. He said some stuff about Larry like that, in fact. So this is going to get real interesting as well. So we have a couple of cases popping off, and they are nuts. But let's get on this here. So Rhonda kicked it off with a super sticker. Appreciate you, Rhonda. Thank you. Let me make sure of something too. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure that at the beginning of this, that we didn't have anything cut off. What's been happening apparently on YouTube is that early super chats are getting cut off by the system here for some reason, and I don't understand why. So let me make sure I didn't miss somebody. Just 1 second. I hate missing a super. Again, you folks, you make this stuff work, so thank you. Now, Rhonda, you were the first on there too. Thank you. I appreciate that. Also, last night, your mom asked for, thanks for her too. Can you show us the current Muppet Theater? Yes, I'll have to pull that up. Now, I'm not the one that made the Muppet Theater, just to note. So if people have a Muppet that is or isn't included in that's not my design. So I did not make the Muppet Theater. I'll pull up the newest one. But again, if people want to be added to it, I don't know. I feel like I feel like we need somebody to like handle mail. I mean, it's work. You gotta have somebody put everybody in there. So I don't know how to work the logistics out on that, but yeah, sure, I do that. But Rhonda, thank you very much. I appreciate you. I like the little sticker, by the way. I always love those. The little the little too cool for school one. I love it. Colleen popped off with that. With becoming a member there. Thank you for your membership. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for the membership and welcome to Tug's Thugs. Thank you, Colleen. Much appreciated. Cute cat, by the way. Love it. Sin. What's up, Sin? Also, another cute cat there, too. It's good to see you, Sin. And also, thank you for that gifted membership. It was cool. I got to watch a bunch of them fall in today. I love watching them like hit people while they're talking and people being like, thanks, I appreciate that. So, thank you all for doing that too. Fallen Hero, as always, man. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Thank you for the gifted membership. And you know, the other day it cut off your super chat too, where I couldn't show it there. I always appreciate you, and because apologies for that too. I hate that. I do, but appreciate you, my friend. Laura, that's funny. I like it in the box. That's absolutely hilarious, your avatar. Thank you for the 5 gifted memberships there. Thank you very much, Laura. Rachel, thanks for the 10. Been watching from bed with the flu this week, but Dad finished round 1 of chemo. Only needs hormone therapy for now, regular checks. So relieved and so proud of him. Thank you for the company. Hey, first of all, love to you. Hope you get better there. It has been a rough, just sinus and stuff. The somebody mentioned the little one not rating today. That's because she hasn't been feeling good all day. She's been resting most of the day. It's really weird to see her engine, only at like a fourth of a tank, instead of her vrooming around the room the whole day. But she hasn't been feeling great. So she's getting rest today, and you get rest for sure. And to your dad with that too. Man, I loved him. I remember watching people I love, care about going through rounds there, and loved them, support them, and like you said, proud of them too, and prayers with them as well, for sure. And love to you. Like I said, you get better. Maybe not. What's up? Maybe not. It's good to see you as always. Thank you for 10 giftos there too. That is awesome. Thank you very much. Man, we haven't, it's funny. We'll probably catch this up on the weekend. We haven't had a chance to talk about all of the insanity that spring forth from right now with the money issue between Preston and 2L, all that money. We didn't even have a chance to catch all of that stuff up because everything that had been popping off recently. And that's a crazy one. Again, you talking about a 6-figure issue, and they just wanted to disappear. I keep wondering, I keep coming back to it again. Lynette is supposed to have all these advocates, all these people that are supposedly protecting her interest, right? Or were. And yet they don't see an issue that from last year, within at least November of last year, donations start rolling in. When those donations roll in, all that money, it's now, so the official line, by the way, this was addressed the other day. The official line to it is that there were projects. When money rolls in, it's for a project. And that money, once a project is done, well, that money becomes the person holding its money. That seems to be the way that is being accounted for. They did show something real interesting, though. Let me show this real fast. I want to show this. So this is a screenshot. It's very murky, but still. Give me a minute here. So you can see with David, he keeps writing in, and he'll write in things like, he'll send money and he'll write Harley, or so this tells you the money was situated for Harley, So here's barn money. And he also asked, keep me secret, which unfortunately, there's also another finish the barn. That's where giant money comes from, stain the fence. Stain the fence indeed. Let's do more. So when money comes in for let's do more, that's apparently a Christmas thing. That's what they're noting there. Buy some nice presents. So again, well, if something happened, no, if the money was given if this guy gave you $10,000 for Christmas, then it wasn't to buy a few freaking trees and some presents and be like, well, that's enough. No, that would be all of their money. And what these receipts do is they prove that money was indeed received. And that money was for Lynette and the child. It doesn't matter what the quote unquote project was. That is the dumbest argument I've ever heard. And I'm glad they have now proven the legitimacy to the big donors' claims of sending in money. So, woohoo, good job there. Good job. And it adds a little bit more to that too, which we'll talk about another day. But that's interesting stuff. And thank you, maybe not. I got way off in the weeds. Appreciate. I just wanted to note that. So, Naughty Pirate, thanks for 5. Curious if Judge Grudge had any influence in Dan not enforcing a protective order. Just a thought. Well, no, small areas, small towns. You always wonder. I always do wonder how much influence a particular individual or individuals they do carry. I would hope not. I would hope that wouldn't be the case. But you always do wonder. And again, I'm not saying that does, but it does make you wonder. Tracy, thank you for the 10 gifted memberships, too. Thank you, Tracy. That is awesome of you and much appreciated. Again, lots of people, too. They thank you as well. And with all of that, Cynic in Chief, what's up, man? BBB's lawsuit is going to get smacked hard. Kentucky's anti-SLAPP. So Kentucky has other laws that will handle some of that. But as far as anti-SLAPP itself, I don't believe they have anti-SLAPP. They have they have frivolous lawsuit protections. They have stuff like that. And that stuff in and of itself would protect. Give me 1 minute here. That stuff would protect. And if you look at the lawsuit and you look at some of the claims, it's up to the lawyer to investigate those. So I think you have a pretty good argument about lawsuit and merits. It'll be interesting when it's all put together, First name Dan, so Small D Rex, Small D Rex. That's funny. Small D Rex. I like that when I saw that come in. But as far as this, is he going to waste Larry's money, the run up to Armenia, to escape paying Larry's fee? Well, again, he says he doesn't run to Armenia. Now, there is that article from 2013 that discusses Armenia. We will pull that up against claims, and we will see. Like I said, we will see exactly what's noted there, because that was a very interesting self-publication. I think there's a lot. Again, he notes that the judge, never. I mean, when he admonishes them all in orders, both of them. Now, he still hasn't handed down a decision. I think he's maybe he's hoping that everyone will age out. I'm not sure what the freaking heck he's waiting on. Cynic, makes for the two there. Beecham. Isn't that why Tori isn't on the Two Hale show? Because she got beached. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's a good one. William thinks the 5. BB thinks too highly of himself. He's not a complete bellman. He's half constipated movement. I thought it was funny. I mean, the first thing, deuce, you know. I mean, again, they don't want their names going. It's this funny thing. They want fame, but at the same time, they whine and complain when their names are utilized while they want fame, right? Because you're looking at them and you're being critical of their actions. So they want fame and they tell you that. In fact, they're getting fame and they tell you that too. If you attach a nickname, then it's not good enough. And they act like you are obligated to nicety. Now, they aren't nice to you. They treat people like absolute garbage, but you're supposed to be kind and nice to them. It blows my mind there. The cynic in chief thinks 5. The Owen suit is the only see Germany getting, money. Well, I mean, that's, some of these, the parties that are there, you're right. Because, okay, like Preston and Cook, getting a decision that floors them and clearing his name, that is a huge, huge thing. Like, if he can pull that in, that would be big, but getting money, it'd be difficult. Now, Discovery is going to be wild, and I expect them to try to keep it from it by settling. I don't know about quickly. Like, again, they will like I think Megan was right. It's just like when you watch a police officer, when they do something and it becomes questioned. What they do is they try the immunity defense. A lot of times, the immunity defense, it will be held up by a court, and then you end up in appeals court. Appeals court will be like, no, that's a problem there. And then they'll kick it down. And then you see settlements. That's usually when you see them. Now, sometimes they will. Now, granted, sometimes they don't want the press that'll come with something, and they will try to settle. But we'll see. We'll see. But it's crazy to know that we're up to this level even talking about. That's nuts. Humane Human, thanks for the 4 months. Rosewood Massacre happened a few miles from OC. Good old boys network still. It's just, well, there's been issues with police too. There's been officer malfeasance in the last few years. I mean, you get a feeling for Levy County. And again, it's not the citizenry. Some of the citizenry, again, they're very nice people. Unfortunately, in Levy County, when you only have like 100 or so people, every crazy person that speaks up, they comprise around roughly 1% of your population. And then when you take out kids and everything, because, you don't hear from them, like little kids and stuff. I wonder what the population demographics really look like with Levy County. Because the reason I asked that, how much of the population is represented by each person there. When you see that makes them seem very loud in a small place. Again, if we were talking about a person from, I don't know, from a larger city, Gainesville, let's since there are people trapped in Gainesville, let's mention Gainesville. The optics on it, they seem a little different, and that is perhaps very unfair. But that old boys club, like people said. Emmy, thanks for the 20 there. This is a case that I'm the most looking forward to. So much love and support to Germany and Georgia. This indeed. I'm glad they're fighting. They need to. With this especially, they need to. Also, like honestly, props with Randy too, because Randy has been willing to go that extra mile and fight. He's been willing to call out what is, it's egregious behavior. So, Chris, thanks for the 2. Foreman versus manskin lawsuit, aka foreskin lawsuit. Yeah, I liked the BM lawsuit. Initials plus. Again, he brought that up in his original file. I'm not the one who brought up bowel movements right from the beginning. He did. That was crazy. Martin, thanks for the vibe. All we need is for Bruce to sue Johnny Depp for the win. That would be so crazy. It's his fault too. Holy crap, that would be funny. Oh, Teresa, hey, Ryder Chick again. Love to you. You have our love. You have our support. And I just want to put that out there again. I know we talked about this before. I saw it come in, but love to you again. Crystal, thanks for the two. So Crystal noted Chief Judge Alan Windsor was assigned to that. So I hope that's a better sign. We'll see. Like I said, we will see. Also, hey, what's up? Too? You sent a member. You didn't have to do that, but thank you. Like I said, I'm hoping that you get everything stable. You're back with us, hanging out, having a good time. You know, we need you back. So hoping that's soon, very soon. McDepp, thanks for the thought there. They may be doing it themselves as a diversion from all of the stuff that they're being accused. I mean, that's possible. Again, they said that that Darth Tudge got hit and that 2L got hit. Now, again, they were telling people to mass flag every channel out there. Oh, well, this happened to me, therefore. Now, I said, I don't call for mass flag. Never have. And if I wanted a channel shut down, I would definitely, I wouldn't penny ante around. Like these channels, I don't want them shut down. Actually, right now, what they're doing, where they're fighting between each other, it has been interesting to watch. It's been very interesting and entertaining. So they think people, they're their own worst enemies. Like them being active is probably the best thing out there. Laura, thank you for the 8 months there. There's not a statement, but 8 months is a statement there. Thank you. 9 months, almost there. Carrying that one to term, baby. Thank you. Rob, thanks for the 5 there. I'm sure after lawsuits filed, Pocket More already waiting for Jeremy and or George when they return to Florida. Yeah, that would actually be a really big problem if Dan Owens decided to then retaliate after they filed a lawsuit. I mean, if there is some type of retaliation and they try to arrest and prosecute, holy crap. Oh, man. But, I do agree. Like that's something that Jeremy, I'm sure, worries about. Like, again, how do you ever feel safe? How do you ever feel that these people represent you? Because obviously they're representing not just Preston and Cook, but they're representing their own self-interest. Now, maybe not. Thanks for the meds. Yes, I did. Thank you all again. And like was noted, I've been looking for a method. Again, I usually use just my phone as is an alarm clock, but I mute it so you don't hear it the whole time we're doing stuff. So I probably need to bring in an alarm clock out here, like a regular one. Hey, Addy, thanks for the T-Rex money. Love it. T-Rex money, the short arm of the law. Love it. What's up, Craig? Drop a hundo. Thank you, Craig. That is awesome of you. Appreciate you, my friend. Low T-Rex? Nope. Lurking? Nope. Just sending kids, just sending my kids inheritance. Well, thank you there. That is much appreciated. But hey, I'm glad to see you, Craig, for real. I wonder when everybody sees this, do you also, the ecosystem tries to spin more lawsuits as being like, look, polyflop. And it's like, no. Do you think that if you had a protective order against somebody and you found out that the district attorney was behind the scenes saying you need to be investigated and that they caution law enforcement from upholding it, wouldn't you have a problem with that? Anybody who says, nah, that'd be okay, they're lying to you, So I think it's amazing. And Craig, again, thank you, Craig. I appreciate you. I appreciate your support. I appreciate all of you, like, just keeping up with this insanity every day, man. Entree, thanks for the 2. I think Owens should get the Moron Award. Indeed. It's the why would you put that in writing award? We've talked about that a lot with people, haven't we? I mean, we have. Why would you put it in writing? Dublin comes to Boston. Thanks for the 2 there. Bumbles needs to walk it back. Well, I believe like Bruce, he lets his anger get the better of him with certain people. Like he does. I firmly believe that he has a problem with Foreman. He has a problem with Randy. He will continue to try to aim at him. But with Larry, I don't think it would have mattered what Larry did. I think we would have seen some kind of thing going at, and the problem there is counter lawsuits. He's going to counter sue. He will. I mean, that's not something he has stated or, publicly or anywhere. He hasn't stated that, but you absolutely know that will be something that will come. And Bruce, he should think about that too, because again, he's made a lawsuit out of wording, and he himself has made some statements about DUI guy. And the one thing that he pointed out in his lawsuit, which I find probably actionable if you were going to go after something. Again, remember, he's not going after Larry Foreman. He makes sure that he notes that that's Larry Foreman's business. That is a reflection of his business. So when he's talking about Larry Foreman online, he's taking aim at Larry Foreman's business. When he's mentioning DUI guy, that's not Larry Foreman. That's Larry Foreman's firm, Larry Foreman's business. So that will be an interesting countersuit to follow too. Allie, thanks for the 5. What's up, Allie? How you doing? I've been enjoying some of those pictures, by the way. You said they're funny. Also, issue a temperature protection order for months when a full one was already in place. Or I said a temporary. I said temperature protection, temporary protection. I don't know why I said my mind. Oh, Lord. It's been one of those days. When the kids are not well, my mind is just all over the place. But yeah, I am. They issued a temporary protection order. That's so funny. For months. Yeah. They should have, as far as the courts are concerned, what you should have seen is enforcement of temporary by itself. And then they start again one day before you have this chalked in. So right after the hearing where that has been issued, they're already questioning it. So, they were questioning that from go. That is just crazy. And thank you again, Starcasm, dude. Thank you for the 5 there. Set an alarm on the phone. Indeed. Lurking message complete. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Like I said, I do have one set on the phone. It's just where I mute my phone out. Just forget about it. Angela, thanks for the 5 there. Do you think, don't you think Jeremy can claim the loss of his safe use of his acreage? I think when you get into damages, it's something that he can discuss. Yes. When you look at his business, he's had to adjust his life where he thought he would be able to use, like you said, all of the acreage to do everything. Not just, remember when we're talking about his business, we're not just talking about shipping, items from whatnot or receiving items from storage units or whatever there. We were also talking about, he discussed early on, I listened to some of the live streams. He wanted to go out and do things on the property, to have fun, take you all out, search for things on it, have a good time there. And now it's become something where they don't feel safe on the property. If he's going out and he's recording video, I mean, again, he's out in the middle of nowhere. Like, you think about that. And again, not to sound alarmist, but when you think about it, you're out in the middle of nowhere. The police, they will not help you. And if he goes out and say, let's just say he's searching for fossils. I'm going to just throw something out there. He goes out by himself. These people have made it clear that they want to do him harm. How would you ever feel safe? So I hate that for the man. And yeah, he can argue that for sure. Now, Kelly, thanks for the vibe. What did the DA get out of not enforcing the protective order? Makes you wonder. Well, indeed, I think the allegations against the town and against Levy County, those allegations, and against prosecutor, I think those allegations that came up, we're seeing, in the law, we see people sometimes instead of law enforcement agents. You understand what I mean? Like, we should see a reflection of position. We shouldn't see a person's ego, a person's anger, whatever. We shouldn't see that made manifest because, that colors their job and they may not do it well or not at all. You should never put yourself in that position. And it looks like Dan Owens did. When you're refusing to do something there, again, that is a reflection of the person, not the position. You never see the person. And unfortunately, Levy County, when you read articles about it, it seems like there's a lot of reflections of the person, not the position. So, I mean, it's a good question, though. McDam, thanks for the 5. I can't help but wondering how Russell Meeks, an extended family in the higher government position, has played in. That's an interesting question, and it's one you'll never know. I mean, honestly, I mean, they'll try to, unless they were dumb enough to put something right. Well, you never know. I mean, maybe there will be a FOIA a request that pops something up, but until then, I mean, good questions. But what's up, Natalie? I saw that super sticker too. That's cool. Like I said, I love it when people send in super stickers, so I get to check them out. I don't think I ever saw that one. Some of the higher ones I have not seen, so it's awesome. I was looking at it on the YouTube. They have super chat and sticker activities, so I was checking that out. Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate you too. Kelly, thanks for the 2. What's the probable cause for Jeremy Hale investigation? Yeah, indeed. Like, why? They just randomly. Well, not just that. I mean, again, you have an order from another state that comes in, and their first response, instead of again upholding a lawful order, is to question it. And who the fuck is Dan Owens? Let me just be blunt about it. Who is he? He is a small town prosecutor, and he thinks that, he gets to put on his big boy pants and he's going to take down the mean old YouTuber. Well, what the hell? What the hell? Or what the hells, maybe. I mean, it's just nuts. But you're right. It's crazy. So Cynic, thanks for the fun there. Jeremy's going to run into 2 big issues. Prosecutors, absolute immunity. Castle Rock versus Gonzalez, which led cops refuse to enforce orders of protection. Yeah, the problem they're going to run into, I mean, ultimately, though, is, again, there's like Megan was saying, a lot of times prosecutors, judges, officials, they get themselves in trouble where they act outside of their capacity. When you start acting as an enforcement agent, when you start acting these different ways, they definitely get themselves in trouble. So that's the way that would come up. But it'll be interesting. I've seen many a case, though, where you get into court, the courts, they kick it, they say immunity, it goes, you get to appeal, and then bam. So I want to see how that goes. And Cynic, you're right on this, that this is a hot enough topic. I could see media and organizations pick up on it or be told about it. This should be the kind of thing that many organizations, they have a problem with. Again, when it's presented to organizations too, you make sure that when you're talking about it, it's Jeremy and George. You make sure they see that we are talking about, again, a lot of times organization will discriminate if it's if the person's a male. So you make sure that they understand there's a male and a female on this, both of them. This, I mean, it's awful. It's awful that they might discriminate with a male. So you have to make sure that you present, but ultimately with that reality, how you show them, like this couple right here, this couple, then maybe they don't blend so well into this, into the mindset of this small town. Again, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? So, media might like that, though. Kelly, thanks for the mom. I think what is Dan going to lose from Jeremy putting a spotlight in Levy County? Corruption deep. Actually, the sad thing, though, is in a lot of cases, that person, they can lose something, but oftentimes it's taxpayers paying for their stupid, and taxpayers should be the one. If people have a problem with this, when offices open up, how you make your voice heard, they need a lot of change there. And unfortunately, well, I do remember this too. Andrea, thanks for the 5 there. I remember when somewhere LP said that Governor DeSantis stepped in for her in one of the CPS or adoption. Yeah, I thought it was a CPS case she said that about. There was a post where I'm pretty sure she stated that. So that's that was something, wasn't it? But I remember a post like that. Don't follow the leader. Don't follow like that. And thanks for the 15 there. Just JMH, Owens, Thomas, Beauchamp, Alan Martin Hodges. Yeah, corruption. Yeah, that's the real kicker that we have seen with Levy County, though, especially, is allegations of corruption. That's what kicked all of this off. Now, a lot of this, it has been, especially with people that come in, like for myself, I'm including myself in this. When you came into this later on, you're already seeing cases in effect, and the cases, they talk about individual behavior and not what happened with Levy County. Now, I like this too, because it kind of magnifies allegations about them too. Janice, thanks for the 10. Lynette has been suspiciously quiet for the past few days, no posting at all. She must have worn out knickers from all the typing she previously did. Yes, she types with, or said knuckles. I thought it said knickers. Her undies. That's what you write on there. But her knuckles. I was like, how do you do that? How do you wear out your knickers? I thought you were talking undies there. I was like, how does that influence typing? She types with her knuckles. I was like, is she typing with her butt? How does that work? Oh, that led me amused. Oh, that really amused me more than it should have. Oh my God! Thank you, Janice. By the way, I appreciate that. And yeah, she has been quiet for a hot minute. She now she has responded to a few things here and there, but you do have to wonder. You also, I hope she's aware. Like, these people have never stopped talking about her. They never do, ever. I think too. Lynette, this is a curious thing. I saw John Cook get involved. Did he put you in your place and tell you to be quiet? Was he like, "Shut up, woman," and you were okay with that? Because apparently. He has gotten quite cozy with those folks stroking his ego, and maybe he thinks he can get some of that money himself. But yeah, it seems like a sellout. Again, you setting your 15 by 20, you get crowded in there with 3 people, and he comes in to enforce and tell you to shut up, man. I don't know. That doesn't sound like the precedent that I've seen on display for a while there, but maybe that is. I don't know. Maybe. Cynic, thanks for the 2. I like that. I thought first name Dan, so small D Rex. That is funny. Would work as well. That is too funny. You know. Yeah, Cynic too. Yeah, Shizzy's covering the dude's BM the suit tonight. Yeah, there'll be a lot too. By the way, after this, make sure you go over. Let me see if I can get that redirect working. Give me a minute. This redirector, it works sometimes, sometimes it doesn't. Let me see if it'll work today. Give me a second. It's being stupid, man. Drives me nuts when the thing doesn't want to cooperate. You know, give me 1 minute. I'm going to set up the redirect real fast. I think we're good. Let's see. I know I saw that. Oh, there it is. Yep. I think it actually came up. Sometimes it doesn't come up. So it's like, man, what a crappy setup. There it goes. I got it. So Wishful She-Devil, thanks to do. How about Diabolical Rex? It's funny too. I actually like low T-Rex. I do like that. I like that. Or a small D-Rex. That's pretty funny too. They're so good. This is Diabolical Rex. That's funny. And, you know, there'll be some funny pictures that come out of that, I think. Cynic in Chief, thanks for the 2 there. Kentucky passed anti-SLAPP in 2022. Okay, let me look up anti-SLAPP Kentucky. I've never looked up Kentucky 2022, so I've never actually looked up their anti-SLAPP laws. Oh yeah, you're right. I've never had. So this will be a new one for me. I've never actually looked it up. So that is interesting. So I'm glad you mentioned that because, again, I may have looked it up a long time ago and I just never thought about it from there. So it has, it's based on the Uniform Public Expression Protection Act. Huh. Interesting. I'll have to read through it and see how it comes up. Thanks for noting that. So I haven't yet looked it up. I figure I will eventually, but just haven't gotten there. I'm glad you looked it up and gave me a year on it too, because that's a relatively recent. They were one of the state holdouts for a long time, where you didn't have anti-SLAPP, and that's good. That's actually very good. Anti-SLAPP gives you the ability to challenge a lawsuit on its merits from go. You know, instead of. And now you ask, what does that mean? Okay, well, we saw, again, not commenting on the case, just noting with anti-SLAPP versus not anti-SLAPP being there. When Rekieta Law got sued by, I'm going to say a person out there, when he got sued, one of the things he ran into was not having any freedom of speech protections. And he ended up winning as it carried forward. Because the guy was like, I can't afford to continue forward. But it could have stopped a lot earlier. It could have stopped a lot of stupid. Now, at the same time, you know, one of the things, it's the same thing in like Tennessee, for example. We have a very strong anti-SLAPP statute. Very strong. One of the things that you run across is getting hit with monetary sanctions for it. So you run afoul of anti-SLAPP, which a lot of the stuff that was noted, it is either there's a lot of protected speech that was noted. Speech, again, that it mirrors Bruce's speech. There's a bunch of stuff that Bruce, and by the way, live stream wise, like Megan was saying, there are transcripts of and recordings of many of the live streams that have been ghosted over time. You know, those live streams that were taken down, that were interviews with BBB talking about the early days of Thumbnail Case and more. Those still exist. They may have been taken down, but they still exist. All of that was captured. So that'll be interesting to look through too. I mean, all of it comes into play. You got to remember, like when you're talking about 2L, you know, why do they matter? Well, they have been a hub for this type of activity. they've put people prominently on display. Or they did this. Larry, by the way, Larry hasn't talked about these folks in a while, but it didn't matter. He talked about them, and he talked about Bruce, and that's apparently too much for Bruce. So, Larry, like I said, he probably let his talk in court happen, and that's fine. I don't know if Larry ever wants to bring Bruce up again, but I am happy to cover the lawsuit. I'm not happy that it's hit Larry, though. Again, Larry's definitely a friend online, and it's a scumbag move. Now, Matt, thanks for the 2. Lawsuit part deuce. Indeed. We keep seeing the lawsuits. How did the early ones end, by the way? How did they end, indeed? All right, folks. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to send you all over, and we will give me 1 second here. And we want you to say, Tug sent you. By the way, I was reading something somebody posted. I was like, what does that say? So it caught me for a second there. But yes, we will be back tomorrow with Megan's channel. I hope you will definitely be there, and we will see you later.